and organization. So as we said over here, instead of becoming fully resolved, it is possible that some of the lung areas will have permanent fibrosis and plaques formed in them. So now they are useless alveoli, they have become consolidated permanently and organized. The inflammation and the fibrous tissue has become organized here. So that is a third complication. Fourth outcome, which is dangerous and fatal or debilitating, is the dissemination. So the pathogen jumps from the lungs into the blood, and from the blood it goes everywhere, and now it can cause meningitis, which is quite dangerous. It can cause arthritis, it can cause infective endocarditis, and so on. So these are the four complications. Alright guys, so now let's look at some of the slides, histopathological slides and the chest x-rays for typical pneumonia. So first of all, look at this here. What you're seeing is this lancet-like structure. This structure is the pneumococcus. It's an electron microscopy, and if you see, they normally live in pairs. That is why we call them diplococci as well. So these are Streptococcus pneumoniae. Most common causes, 90% of the cases for lobar pneumonia are normally the pneumococcus. Here, look at this one. This slide above, this is the normal lung parenchyma under a histological slide. And here, if you see, this is a pathological lung parenchyma. And how do you see it? Look at the cellularity. There are so many cells present in here, and they are present in the septa. So this is the septum, and they are present, they are coming into the alveoli. So this is the area inside the alveoli. So if you see, they are infiltrating. So this is early pneumonia, and a lot of this is actually mostly in the septums. So this may even be a slide that is more appropriate for atypical pneumonia, but anyways, this is the pneumonia here. Look at this lobar pneumonia. This is such a beautiful slide. So look at this. This is actually an alveolus. And what is all this in here? This all is cells plus proteinaceous. Do you see this pink hyalinized proteinaceous material everywhere? So this is the lobar pneumonia typical presentation. The whole thing is consolidated. The alveoli, there is no airway exchange space anymore. Air exchange space anymore. Alveoli are filled with these cells and the proteinaceous material. So we'll call it consolidated lung or consolidated area. I don't know if it is patchy or if it is full lobe. If it is patchy, then it would be bronchopneumonia, and if it is full lobe, then it would be a lobar pneumonia. Another zoomed in case, and see here, this is interesting slide. This is the area where the infection started. You see this? So there was infiltration here by the pathogen, and then it started getting out and into the other areas through the pores of Kohn, and by breaking down the alveolar walls, causing necrosis and damage of them, and then going into the other parts of the tissue. So this is the patchy area of the tissue that is involved now in the inflammation or in the pneumonia process. Actually here as well, here too. And then as you start going peripheral from there, you see lesser, there are better areas or clearer areas. Look at some chest x-rays here. So this one, this x-ray is the normal x-ray. Normal. So if you increase this and see here, this is a normal x-ray. And on this side, this one is an abnormal x-ray. You can see lots of infiltration here. So we can see that congestion and infiltration. However, this is interesting. So look at this. So this is the consolidated lung. So this is a pneumonia x-ray that we are seeing. Look at this x-ray as well. So once again, if I make it bigger, this is the normal x-ray, normal chest x-ray. And here if you see, look at this infiltration or consolidation. And here, this whole lobe is actually involved, this part, but do you see this little abscess here? This area has an abscess. So that is the abscess and cavitation being formed. So this person had, it's about 32 years old male, he had so much of the damage done that there is necrosed area and the cavities are forming. Although this patient has bilateral pneumonia, so you can see areas here as well. Here you see the pleural angle is almost disappeared. Look at this chest x-ray as well. This is actually atypical pneumonia. Here you don't see this kind of consolidation everywhere. Instead, you see a lot of reticular in this x-ray. You see a lot of reticular markings. So that these reticular markings are indicative of the inflammation inside the parenchyma or the septum or the walls of the alveoli instead of the alveoli itself. And so that is what we have for the x-rays and the histopathological slides. Now we'll talk about the various other pathogens that can also cause typical pneumonia. So let's look at them here. So we already talked about Streptococcus pneumoniae. All of these pathogens that we'll talk about have the same mechanism of pathology which we studied with the Streptococcus pneumoniae. So I left that pathology over here for the completion's sake, and we'll go through this. Okay, look, first is the Hemophilus influenza. Hemophilus influenza normally causes infections in children from going to school. They got that from another child and so on, normally secondary to upper respiratory infection. So first the children got some common cold, and then secondarily they would develop the Hemophilus influenza infection as well. In the adults, Hemophilus influenza, please write it down, keep it in your mind, this is the most common cause of acute bacterial exacerbation in patients with COPD. So it affects those patients that have some other debility as well. They may be COPD patients, they may be cystic fibrosis patients, they may be chronic bronchitis, chronic bronchiectasis, and so on. So any patients that have some other illness can also become affected by the Hemophilus influenza. Second is the Moraxella catarrhalis. So Moraxella catarrhalis also causes infection or pneumonias in the patients who have predisposing lung vulnerabilities. Once again, it causes pneumonias in the patients with the COPD, and this one is second most common cause of pneumonia or acute bacterial exacerbation in patients with the COPD. Now also remember this, these three guys, Streptococcus pneumoniae, Hemophilus influenza, and Moraxella catarrhalis, together are the three most common causes of, see this child is holding his ear. What is going on? He has otitis media, he has a pain in the ear. These three pathogens are the most common cause of otitis media in children. Staphylococcus aureus, of course a big pathogen, we have separate complete lecture about it, but within the pneumonias, Staph aureus causes pneumonias in the hospital, so that is nosocomial, plus in the community settings as well. So it affects both. Actually in hospitals it is quite dangerous. MRSA, methicillin resistant Staph aureus, is this guy. Now here if you see this, I've connected the Staph aureus to this virus, and virus is going and the staph is coming with it. Why? Normally Staph aureus pneumonia occurs secondary to viral infections. So again the patient develops some sort of viral infection, common cold, rhinovirus, rubella virus, Coxsackie virus, and so on, not the Coxsackie virus though. And then the secondary infection with Staph aureus occurred. If the pneumonia occurs with the Staph aureus, it is usually more dangerous, it develops more complications, it causes abscesses, it causes necrosis, it can cause empyema and so on. So rather fulminant here. Another thing that is interesting is that Staph aureus also affects the drug addicts who are using the needles. And of course you know that if they're going to use the needle, it's going to go to the right heart first. And so right heart endocarditis plus Staph aureus pneumonia is a common problem in the drug addicts. So keep that in mind when you are looking at the USMLE questions. Klebsiella pneumonia, so Kleb, K-L-E-B, or club. So it is normally a pathogen that affects malnourished, debilitated, weak patients, and normally alcoholics, because they are also in that kind of a situation. Their immune system is low, their neutrophil chemotaxis and mobilization is low, their body, their nutritional status is low, and so they become victim of the Klebsiella more often, plus they aspirate commonly as well. One thing that you need to keep in mind is that Klebsiella pathogen creates a very viscid capsular polysaccharide. So it creates that thick capsular polysaccharide which the patient is going to expectorate in the phlegm or in the sputum, and you would see thick jelly. So I put this jelly over here in a plate. You would see thick red currant jelly like sputum that patient would be throwing out. So if you have a question where it says that the patient comes to you and the patient is alcoholic and he's been coming to you recurrently every other night after drinking, and today when he came in he is also expectorating some red currant jelly like sputum, so you should suspect Klebsiella. Pseudomonas aeruginosa, a pathogen that I like and hate both. I like it because its name is Mona, so it is the Mona. I can remember from Mona she would be doing things. However, it is bad as well because once you got the pseudomonal pneumonia, it usually is very dangerous and cause death very easily. Now if you see here, what are the patients from this side here, you see this is Mona and she has a green brush in her hand. So pseudomonal infections in the burn victims are common, and the color discoloration becomes green. That is why she has a green green brush in her hand. Pseudomonal infections in the burn victims and especially pneumonia can occur. Then the children with the cystic fibrosis also develop pseudomonal. So here she is hugging a child who has cystic fibrosis. So they also develop pseudomonal infections and this can become fatal. And then people on the ventilators, so ventilators intubation can also cause pseudomonal infections. Again, dangerous infection and can cause fatality very fast. Finally, Legionella pneumophila. So of course the name came from the Legionnaires, you know, the legions, when people used to come together. So what it is community acquired. Normally at the artificial aquatic environments is where it grows. So in the water coolers or in the malls where you have sprinklers on top of vegetables. So these are the kind of, or piping or pottery systems where you have pipes to provide water to the plants. All those system can have Legionella growing there. Now it can cause two types of diseases. One is the pneumonia. So over here if you see the lower part of the lung, that is a pneumonia. So when it involves pneumonia, it can actually become an epidemic and it can involve lots of people who are present in that particular community setting. Or it can cause Pontiac fever. So do you see this little Pontiac car over here? Pontiac fever is the Legionella's upper respiratory tract infection, which normally does not have pneumonia aspect. So just upper respiratory tract infection which resolves and rather harmless. Now Legionella also affects patients which have pre-existing diseases. It affects them easily. So patients with the immunosuppression, patients with cardiac problems, with the renal problem, with the immune deficiencies, and patients with the organ transplants. It normally affects them easily and causes pneumonia. Remember this thing that 30 to 50% of the patients with the immune deficiency who develop Legionella pneumonia die. So fatality rate is very high in the immunocompromised patients who develop Legionella pneumonia. Thank you very much.